Good evening, everybody. This is Mr. John Yarwood and Coach Les. We are here with Yarwood Martial Arts Mat Chat live, episode number 38. Oh, 37? All right. And today we are discussing accountability in martial arts and in life. Now, some of you might be asking, so what do you mean accountability? So I'm going to go right to Google and say, what is accountability? And the dictionary from Oxford Languages says the fact or condition of being accountable, responsibility. And the example they gave is their lack of accountability has corroded public respect. So as we delve into this, accountability is an assurance that an individual or an organization is evaluated on its performance or behavior related to something for which it is responsible. And remember from before, responsibility is the willingness to be cause in the matter of one's life. Ultimately, it is a context from which one chooses to live moment by moment by moment. And at Yarwood's Martial Arts, we believe accountability is one of the most important lessons learned on and off the mat. And we're going to be discussing 5 ways in which it shapes strong martial artists and strong people outside of the studio. So thanks, Mr. Yarwood. I'm going to hand the mic over to you because we just had a private discussion about a situation today in a meeting where there was a lack of accountability, clearly.
Yep. No, I'm the type of person that, let's just start with, let's call it your word, right? If you say you're going to do something, if you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, or you're going to do a job for them, or whatever it is, whether you're getting paid or not paid, you volunteer, whatever the case may be, once you tell somebody that, you got to do it, or you got to be there. Unless something comes up and you are able to let them know ahead of time, hey, I'm really not going to be able to make it, or I'm not going to be able to do that. Even still, that's got to be a pretty severe thing that needs to happen in order for you to get out of your responsibilities. For me, once I tell you I'm going to do something, or I'm going to be somewhere, or I'm going to do whatever it is, I do everything I can to make sure that happens. I even try and get places early to make sure that I'm there when the said meeting or whatever is going to start, right? If I tell you I'm going to do something for you, I'm going to do it. That's just how it is. And I have expectation that if you tell me you're going to do something or be somewhere, that you're going to do it, because that's how I live my life. And I expect that from other people. And I think sometimes that gets me in situations where I probably get upset if people don't follow through with what they say they're going to do, because to me, it's a lack of respect, a lack of integrity. There's a lot of other things that go into it if you don't hold yourself accountable to things you say you're going to do or where you're going to be.
And I know notoriously, one of the things that I found for myself, by no means I am guilty, and I have the nerve to call myself an integrity coach. And one of the things that I know in that realm is that I do my best when I do blow my word up, figure out a way to clean it up, and make sure when I clean it up that person understands, may or may not have agreement, and is willing to move forward in a relationship and this isn't, I'm not talking a romantic relationship, I'm talking a business, social, friendship relationship, based on the fact that, yep, it's not if he's going to blow it up, it's when he's going to blow it up, and I can count on him to do his best to clean it up. And I know for myself, as a small business owner of not one, not two, not three, 4 small businesses, and then being a valid member of a household, that weekly I end up breaking my word. I end up, if my schedule is packed right to the nut. And if something goes wonky, all the dominoes go. And the question is, if I'm able to catch it as they're falling and be in communication, or reach out, make the apology, make the connection, and figure out the next step to make it, whatever it was, be accomplished. And what I know about personal close friends and my coaches is they know that I'm always pushing the envelope. And they all chuckle because there's like, let's see, today, is he going to make it? Is he going to go according to his...
Am I going to get a text? Am I getting a phone call?
And or is the other person going to have to make the call and say, hey, and jar me out of whatever poop I'm in? So clearly there's that ownership of growth, which is our number one attribute that shapes you. Your progress is your responsibility. In martial arts and life, true growth happens when you show up, put in the work, and take ownership of your journey. Notice, it doesn't say right or wrong, good or bad. It just says take ownership of your journey. What does that look like? That looks like an apology, being responsible, listening for, or even asking, is there anything that I need to do or say to complete this? And in that space, some miracle happens. Most people drive on by, don't do anything about it, and then wonder 5 years later why all these little broken agreements, all these failed accountability pieces blow up the relationship.
Yeah, I want people to know that when I tell them I'm going to do something, that they can expect that I'm going to do it. I want them to know that when I say it, 99.9% of the time, it's going to happen. I want them to understand that I'm not just telling you because you want to hear it. I'm telling you because it's true. It's what's going to happen. There's a book out there. It's a great book written by former Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. It's called, and Leif Babin. It's called Extreme Ownership. And it goes into talking about when you're a leader, when you're somebody who's in a position of leadership, that everything that you do, everything that happens below you is on you, right? You take ownership for whatever happens, right? And that's not to say you're at fault for everything that happens, but if you're involved in it, you have some ownership in it. And I take that very seriously, that if I'm, like, for my students, if I tell them, we're going to do something, or if I'm going to get them to a certain place by a certain time in their rank or whatever it is, I do everything I can to make sure that happens. And if it doesn't happen, then it's my fault, right? Because I didn't finish up what I was supposed to do. With my instructors, it's my goal to get them to a point where they don't need me very much, right? They can go off on their own and help in classes and assist and know everything they're supposed to do. But I take ownership for what they do, because if they're acting in a certain way, it's because I haven't trained them the way that they're supposed to be doing it, right? Sure, they have to have accountability for their own actions, but also there's some accountability on my part because I didn't teach them the way they're supposed to be doing things. So there's always some built-in accountability and ownership into everything that you're doing, even if it's not directly what you're supposed to be doing. And when you talk about, ownership of your own growth, you also have some accountability in other people's stuff too. If you have some kind of role to play as a mentor or as a leader or a colleague or whatever, if they're involved in what you're doing in any way, you still have some responsibility for their actions as well. And I take that personally too, because if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do and that directly affects me, then I have problems with them, right? And I have to go find out, okay, what is it that I can help you with that's going to make it so you can do your job better, right? If you go over to them and say, hey, how come you're not doing your job? Well, now you put blame on them, right? Without necessarily knowing the reason. If you go over to them and say, hey, this part isn't getting done. I know it was assigned to you. Is there something that we can help you with that'll make your job easier? And when you put it that way, that puts the onus back on them to start to figure out, okay, what do I need to do my part when it comes to the ownership and accountability piece.
And the one thing that I want to throw in on all of this, right, is so I have and I speak a lot about responsibility, and as I shared with that quote at the beginning, the three other pieces that I want to share about responsibility, just to clear the pathway for people here, is responsibility is not burden. It is not fault, praise, blame, credit, shame, or guilt. In responsibility, there's no evaluation of good or bad, right or wrong. There is simply what is so and your stand in the matter. Being responsible begins with a willingness to deal with a situation from the view of life that you are the generator of what you do, what you have, and what you are. And it isn't necessarily the truth. It's a place for you to stand to empower you to be responsible. Now, no one can make you responsible, nor can you impose responsibility on another. It is really a grace that you give yourself, believe it or not, an empowering context that leaves you moment by moment by moment with a say in the matter of life. And when we say that, to know, like having come from spending time in the military, I gave my life to the country, to the United States. I signed a piece of paper that said, government, my life is now yours. And for me, that meant if they said jump, I would jump. If they said lie down, I'd lie down. And I didn't debate it. I was accountable to listen to an order and produce that result. Now, in today's world, there are so many people that question that. And they don't want that pressure. Yet, along with all of that pressure, along with all of that game, comes the beauty of some of the things that we're going to be speaking about here in a moment. The ability to own the growth that you're going through, learn from mistakes, build respect and trust with those around you. Understand the need for discipline and consistency. And finally, to be able to say, I'm going to play this game called being responsible, and therefore you can count on me and hold me accountable for these things. And if I don't do them in the time that I say I'm going to do them, that I can clean it up or say something beforehand before it becomes something that impacts or frustrates or creates an issue or a problem for somebody else. Because that's what that is about, being accountable. And that whole game of accountability is because there's somebody relying on me. There's an example of that. And so I wanted to share a definition of integrity that really has a a fun depth to it. And integrity is nothing hidden, being truthful and honest, doing complete work, working from an empowering context, and doing very well what you do, doing it as it was meant to be done or better, and without cutting corners at all. In other words, honoring one's word, doing what you know to do, doing what you said you would do and on time, doing what others could expect you to do, even if you haven't said that you would do it, and saying when you are not doing it, and noticing that, and when you're not doing it, and saying when you're not doing it as soon as you realize you won't be doing it or won't be doing it on time. So to have that clarity of purpose. And you know what? Stuff happens. Accidents happen on the freeway. You forget to put gas in the car. I mean, these things happen. Life happens. So rather than cover it up, rather than hide, rather than lie, cheat, or steal, to be in communication, makes a big deal. Back over to you, Mr. Jarwood.
Yeah, and then when all those things happen, that next level is taking ownership of those things, of the mistakes that you've made, owning up to what it is you've done, and then trying to either repair them or not let them happen again, right? Learning from the things that happened, trying to anticipate some things that could come up, right? And building that into how you're doing things. Because if you're not having the ownership of it, of the mistakes that you're making, then you really aren't having accountability, because then you're starting to blame things that happen on other things or other people, right? Like you said, sure you didn't put enough gas in the car, but whose fault was that? Right? You didn't account for a train going across the tracks that you cross every single time and made you late. Well, did you build enough time into your travel to be able to account for that? I mean, there's just so many things that come up. Like when you start to, even little blames here and there add up. Like, this happened, so I couldn't get there. That happened, so I couldn't see you. This happened. All these other little things that start to grow, right? And suddenly you find yourself making excuses for little things and then allowing yourself to not have the accountability that you should be having just because you can blame it on something else that's not necessarily directly your fault. So when you start to do that, you're losing your accountability with the people that you promised you were going to do things for, or going to, you were going to be somewhere, whatever it is. And as you allow yourself to do that little by little by little, your accountability breaks down, and suddenly people aren't. They might hear you say, "Yeah, I'll be there at 10 a.m.," but they know in reality you're probably not going to be, right? Just because you stopped having the accountability and the ownership of what you're doing. So you're like, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be late anyway, so who cares?
And I think in what you just said, I want people to really realize this isn't about an excuse. Well, if this, then that. This is about looking to see, how do I learn from this? How do I train and develop from this? What am I going to take? What can I take away?
Yep. Where's the lesson?
Where's the lesson to be learned? And how can I make the space for my humanity? And in making space for my humanity, I give the other person that I'm working with the right to their humanity.
There's always room, like you said, there's room for grace, right? But at what point does it stop being grace, and now you're starting to use the grace that somebody's giving you as an excuse to not have the accountability, right? At some point, you can give grace to a certain point, and then it gets abused if they keep going with it. It's like, I'm no longer giving you grace because it's a consistency with you, right? I know that even if you tell me you're going to be there on time, you're not going to be, because the last 8 times you haven't. I gave you grace the first 2 times, but now it's a pattern. So it runs out.
Yeah.
And then once it happens that it runs out, it's really hard to get people to believe you again, that you're going to be accountable to what you say. Because you're in a position where maybe you're, like you talked about being in the military, your office, the officer in charge, because your accountability is bad, he's constantly checking up on you. He's doing things that he shouldn't have to do because he's got other jobs that he needs to take care of. And if you're not fulfilling your duties that you need to be doing, you're taking away his ability to be able to do the things he's supposed to be accountable for. So you create a ripple effect that causes problems up the chain as well, because your superiors or your boss or whatever, now, because you don't have accountability, because you aren't taking ownership, has to check in on you.
Which then eats up time.
Yep. His time.
Yeah. So we've covered a couple of these 5 points. So there are 5 ways it shapes strong martial arts and strong people, is this word accountability. The first, ownership of growth. Second is learning from mistakes. Third is respect and trust. Fourth is discipline and consistency. And fifth, leadership by example. So for me, when I interview a client, I basically tell that client, it's not if I'm going to make a mistake, it's when am I going to make a mistake? How do I clean it up?
Yep.
And then there's a known procedure.
Yeah, that's a big part. That's the ownership piece, right? I'm going to make a mistake, but I'm also going to fix that mistake. And here's how I'm going to do it. And here's what's going to happen going forward. So they not only know that you're going to keep your word, but if something comes up where you're not able to, they know you're going to follow it up and repair it, versus just letting it go and not taking responsibility for it. So they have that They know that you're accountable, whether you do exactly what you're supposed to say or you have something come up and have to change how you do things. You're still going to do what you said you're going to do.
And I think one of the things that has become so prevalent today with parents, right? So many parents are so busy. They're so busy doing this, doing that, trying to be part of this club, this social world, and then having their kids go 900 miles an hour along with them.
Yep. Let's see if you can see this. I came across this today. Can you see it?
No, it's not working because it's trying to autofocus.
All right, so the first one on the left-hand side, it's a mom and dad sitting with their kid, and they're talking to their instructor, and it says how it started. And the parents say, we want our child to learn discipline. On the right-hand side, the other half, it says 6 months later. It's the mom sitting with the kid who's got his headphones on. He's looking at an iPad, and he says, we don't want to make Johnny do anything he doesn't want to do. He doesn't feel like it anymore, right? So they're not being accountable to their child for what they're trying to teach their child. They're allowing their kid to do whatever it is they want, right? So they're not being accountable to their child. They're not being accountable to themselves or to the instructor that's trying to teach them the accountability piece. So they're going against everything that they initially said that they were going to do. So parents not having accountability for their kids has a big effect on them as well, because ultimately they're learning from you. And if you're not accountable to the things you need to teach them and not having the consistency that the kid needs, not just you, it might be a sacrifice that you have to make, but ultimately it's worth it to teach your kids that they need to be accountable, that they need to do the things they say they're going to do, whether they like it or not. It becomes a big problem. Are you sleeping? It looks like he fell asleep.
No.
Contemplating?
Well, so part of the issue that I have today, and I think I was trying to think, did we talk about it last week or was it the week before, where parents expect their kids to go to school and learn common sense, which to me is part of being accountable, responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I look and it's like schools aren't there to teach them that.
Mm-mm.
Regular schools.
Nope.
What is dynamite about what you're up to and what you've created is this bridge between life, school, and parents. And I was reminiscing about my parents. My parents were super strict. Both of them were in the military. I had to be in bed a certain time, Monday through Friday, Sunday through Thursday, and Friday and Saturday I had an hour extension. And even as a senior in high school, I could not be out past a certain time, Sunday through Thursday. And people, and including, this is when I say people, this is me, and I'm including myself. I thought I was in prison. So when I went to university, I mean, I did one of those overnight.
Shackles were off.
Oh my gosh. It's like, this is what life is like after 10 o'clock.
That's when all the fun happens.
And it wasn't about drinking or drugs or any of that. It was just look at all this life that happens after I used to have to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what reward is there for being accountable? Not only reward, but award. Because according to our society today, we reward and give an award to the losing team.
Yep.
So what's the purpose of being a winner?
That's been diluted.
And that, to me, I think is like at the foundational principle of all of this.
Yep.
There's no accountability for being a valid, breathing, living human being in the economy of our world.
Yep. It's not, it starts immediately that there isn't accountability for things, right? When I was a kid, if I got in trouble in school and I got a note sent home or something, my mom didn't call the teacher and say, "Why did you punish my kid?" That's not how it works. Right? I got it at school and at home. I understood that if I did something I wasn't supposed to do, I was going to get it. I had to be accountable for my actions.
Yeah.
Now it's the other way around. Your kid does something stupid at school or he's bullying somebody or whatever. It's the teacher's fault. How come my kid's one is in trouble? What did my kid do? My kid doesn't do those things. My kid is whatever.
My kid has a halo.
Yeah, no, your kid does not. It's broken. And in my school, I not only hold the students accountable, but I hold the parents accountable as well for their students.
And in my ice cream shops, I have now learned to do, thanks to, and I don't think Mr. Yarwood knows what I'm about to say, but I now realize that it's one of the reasons I interview the parents or grandparents, or go like today and have a conversation with a grandparent who dropped the kid off and go, has something changed in their life? They're not doing what they were hired to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy. Why are they coming? Why are they beating themselves up to be here? Come to find out, there's extenuating circumstances stuff going on in the background that just gives me, empowered me to then have another conversation with the employee and say, look, I know life is happening to you at home. Divorce, remarriage, stepmom, step-parent. And yet we have to deliver, and we are holding you accountable for your shift, for your grace to customers, for your excitement at being here. All of this. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You can say it's no longer working and you can go, you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I had this brainwave idea with the grandma to say, I want you to check in at the end tonight. I'm going to have this conversation based on what we've just discussed. And I would love for you to get an update. And I look at that and go, that's the parent's job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got grandma here. It is now her job.
Yep.
So, and the accountability begins with the fact that she knows that there's stuff going on in this person's life. She knows all of that. And she was able to let me know, my kid loves working here. Really? I wouldn't have noticed. Do you want to see a video?
Yep.
And then to have the discussion and couch it or broach it in this ownership of growth, learning from mistakes, respect and trust for yourself.
Yep.
Discipline and consistency, because that's what you agreed to. And we do our best to mimic that as a leader by example for you. And then come to find out, a couple of the leaders weren't holding up their end as much as they could. And there's this whole now place for transformation to happen. And for me to hear from her directly, I love my job. I don't want to leave.
Yep. And in my situation, kids don't quit karate. Parents quit karate.
Yeah.
Right? They start to say, "Oh, it's hard to get you there every time," or "It's always a struggle. You always fight me." Right? They try and come up with a reason why their kid doesn't want to do karate anymore. When in reality, it's they don't want to do karate anymore. They're just transferring it to their child, right? Because their child doesn't make that decision, but the parent can ultimately talk that kid into it because they don't want to do it. So they make it, "Oh man, you really want to go to karate tonight? We could go, we got something else going on," or whatever, right? They start to feed that little voice into their head that the kid doesn't want to do it anymore. And then the kid decides that they don't want to do it anymore. And the parent says, "See, I knew you didn't want to do it anymore." They're not getting the value out of it that they should be getting out of it because they're not taking accountability for the things that their students are learning, that their kids are learning, right? Because I'm teaching the kids all this stuff. And if the parents aren't taking it in, it doesn't get stuck in there. It leaks back out again.
Yeah.
So that's why we really work hard on sending stuff home with the kids, not just doing it in class.
And I think the camaraderie that it creates, right? When we know that the people on our right and the people on our left are being held accountable for the same as I am,
Mm-hmm.
creates another level.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what a great... Be accountable, be unstoppable, be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
Any closing statements?
Do what you say what you do.
Mm-hmm. And remember...
Hold yourself accountable. Hold others accountable.
Yeah. And remember, if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for being here at Matt Chat number 37. There we go.
See you on the mats.